Angeles, things changed?
You know, I'm really focused on just whooping Devin Haney's ass again. That's all I'm really worried about. So, just to not even redeem myself, but just cement that bullshit fucking Austrian bullshit. You know, what you probably did set up. We know you did that. Where's your little brother? Is your brother in the house? Because your brother knew before everybody else, and you don't answer that question.
My little brother right there.
Okay, so how do you know before everybody else? You know, corruption at its finest. Corruption at its finest. They could have taken the loss. What's up, man? I know y'all see you. I don't want to touch that. I don't know what you're doing with your hands, buddy. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to look past Broly. Hey, that Austrian don't help you block a left hook, bro. You got hit like 1,000 times. Okay, so you got dribbled off the canvas. You know nothing was taken. You know damn well. You know damn well.
Do not do drugs, kids.
Do not do drugs? Do not do... Okay, hey, he had that in his back pocket the whole time.
That was what we were expecting, right?
Yeah.
That's the stuff.
That's kind of what... And look, me and you spoke about this on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Like, why are they not going directly to Ryan versus Devin? And this is no disrespect to Rolly, no disrespect to Ramirez, which I think is a tough fight for Devin Haney. But the heat is right there. It's there. And yes, it could get bigger, and it probably will get bigger come September, October. But the risk that we're running by not putting these guys straight in with each other is a big one, because if someone loses, it's just not the same fight again. And I know people said, oh, yeah, but if Devin loses, you can still do it. No, you can't. Maybe in a year's time, but you can't do it straight away. So that almost got me upset to think, why aren't we just running straight to it rather than kind of this semi-final thing? But it is what it is. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we do get it. But I do think both of them, and I include Rolly Romero as a tough fight for Ryan as well. I think both of them are in tough fights.
I do want to say hello very briefly here to everyone who's joining us on YouTube. We had a bit of a false start there with the dreaded black screen, but I do believe we are up and running. So, hello, how are you? It's a nice Tuesday afternoon. You didn't miss much. Wait, we were just recapping yesterday's press conference, which you probably already saw the highlights. But in any event, we apologize for the inconvenience and for the clunky start, but we're up and running now, and we are all good. I wanted to ask you about a few things and want to talk about, obviously the biggest story in boxing continues to be this TKO Turkey merger and the changing of the times and all this stuff. Yesterday, we're starting to see the players involved speak about it, right? When we were talking about it, no one had really said anything. They were, I don't know, taking some time, digesting, who knows. And yesterday, Oscar De La Hoya spoke to the media. Now, this was a couple of days after Eddie Hearn spoke to the media, and we'll get to that in a moment. Mauricio Suleiman of the WBC spoke about it. Other promoters, figures as well in the sport. But I thought Oscar's comments were very telling and very interesting. In case you missed it, here's what Oscar had to say.
That comment to me, I felt a little offended.
Dana White has stated that he'd rather not work with the established promoters now if he doesn't have to, but it looks like he will be open to it. Just overall, what have you heard, and how do you think things are going to unfold, and what do you feel about their group?
Look, I mean, I did hear that he passed over the reins of boxing to Dana White. Well, that comment to me, I felt a little offended because I've been in boxing all my life. And I've been promoting for 20 some odd years. So what I'm gonna do is stay in my lane and do what I do for Golden Boy and with DAZN, and give the fight fans the best fights that can possibly be made, just the way we've been doing for years. And working with Turkey Al-Sheikh and Riyadh season and sprinkling these championship big events, it's an honor for me to do that. But I have my business that I'm going to take care of as well. And nobody's going to touch me there, because we are the best developers in the fight game. And we take our fighters to championship levels, to superstardom, like the way we did with Canelo and Ryan Garcia. So I'm going to stick in my lane, and I'm going to work with Turkey Al-Sheikh, because it has been very positive.
So this is an interesting one, ADE, because not that long ago, Oscar was one of the promoters that was critical of Turkey's involvement in the sport. And then all of a sudden, They become friends, come to terms, all is good, and now you're starting to see, hey, I'm a little offended. I thought we were working together. I thought this was all well and good, and I think some of these individuals are starting to realize that might be coming to an end. What did you make of what he had to say, and his demeanor and tone when he was saying it?
Yeah, look, he's clearly upset, and they all of them seem like they're in a difficult position in terms of what to say. And I mean, all of them. I put Eddie in that bracket as well. Ben Shalom, I think, said something on Friday night. Now, Oscar, we only await now Frank Warren, who's had the relationship from the beginning with Turkey. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. But I think it's the words that's been used from Turkey and Dana White, which has maybe offended some, like crushing. And I think he made a joke in it. I think it was a joke, obviously, about leaving the promoters in the jail if there's an event at Alcatraz. So I think all of them seem to be a bit confused as to what has happened. But I also feel that there's a realization that this venture with Turkey was a good one, is a good one, but is a bonus to what they do day to day. Don't forget your day-to-day running. Don't forget putting on events that you did prior to Saudi and prior to Turkey. And think of what Turkey has given you as a bonus, as a kickstart to maybe do more events. And I think all of them are coming to the realization that probably was what it was. And now we just have to get back to work. I think Eddie mentioned that he'll get back to doing 35 shows a year. I think Oscar's singing from that same hymn sheet. And it is what it is. I mean, these guys, as Oscar said, Oscar's been in boxing since he was 6. And not just obviously as a fighter, but as a very, very good promoter. He's promoted some of the biggest fights in the world, some of the biggest fighters in the world. He was doing that prior to Turkey. And if this comes to an end, this relationship, which I don't think it will, I'm sure Oscar will continue to put on good events.
Okay, so here's Eddie Hearn on Friday speaking to the Stomping Ground, and I actually thought he did a great job. I thought he did a great job of balancing the emotions, right? He didn't come out and say, I'm offended. He said, I think this is great. He said, this is a sign that boxing is on fire, and I disagree with them that boxing is broken. Boxing isn't broken. I love boxing. I love working with the WBC and the IBF, et cetera, et cetera. And so he I thought, poked back a little bit, but also wasn't disrespectful and didn't show his cards. He didn't show his emotions on his sleeve. In case you missed it, here's what he had to say.
Yeah. Moving on to Turkey and Dana White's partnership. When were you guys made aware of this? I guess like
a year ago.
Just didn't. Okay.
Yeah, about a year ago probably. When the conversation started, and particularly the last 6 months, 3 months. It wasn't really a surprise to us. I mean, look, when Turkey does his interviews and announcements, he's very bullish, and I think some of the things, whether you take him seriously or whether that's his plan, probably ruffled a few feathers. My phone's been red hot with people saying, well, we need to get together, we need to do. I'm pretty chilled with it. I think it's amazing news, to be honest with you. I mean, I think if you're comfortable with your business and and you believe in your ability, I think it's brilliant. Like, I think what it shows is, anytime someone like Dana White and TKO and Nick Khan want to make a play in boxing, that goes to show you where boxing's at. The one thing that I disagree with His Excellency and Dana White, boxing's not broken. Boxing's in the best place it's ever been. And boxing's been hot for a long, long time. Riyadh season, His Excellency, he's injected that new lease of life, and of course a huge amount of money as well to make these big fights happen. So I don't think anyone's going to fix boxing. But can we improve it? Can we put better structures together? Can we come up with leagues that are going to work and find one champion and all this kind of stuff? Yeah, I think we should always look to evolve. I don't agree with necessarily with the kind of, what was it Dana said, we don't need 3 letters before a belt. You have to remember those governing bodies and those belts carry a huge amount of history and legacy. And fighters want to fight for those belts. Now, you've got the ring belt, which is, in my opinion, I've said before, even before His Excellency took it over, that is kind of like the Ring Magazine champion is kind of like the established #1 in the division. But, I've spoke, this whole thing about one champion, this is not a new thing. But trust me when I say those belts have a big value to the fighters. And their heroes, previous greats, have held those belts as well. So I don't really know too much about the format, if I'm honest. I read the press release. But we'll see, and I think it's tremendous for boxing. I really do.
Eddie sounds like you there, talking about the history of the belts. And so you guys, the old guard are holding on to this concept. The new kids who are coming in are going to say, oh, yeah, there's opportunities here with these guys on this side of the fence. To hell with those old belts. I'm going with them. That's what's going to happen. And I don't understand how anyone can see otherwise.
No, I completely disagree. And look, I understand what you're getting at. And a new, shiny new toy, which sort of promises loads of money and fortunes. I can understand why that is appealing. But again, history means something in this sport. Boxing's been going since the 17th century, where it was once bare knuckle, even though that has come back again. I think people care about that. I think people care about the WBC because of the belt holders. I think people care about the WBA being over 100 years old. I think people care about
You think
the
they
IBF.
care about that more than money?
No, I think you know what it is. No, you are correct. But the prize was always a belt meant money. And that's not always been the case, but sometimes winning a world title meant the fortune and the riches were coming. And they were kind of intertwined, those two things. So I think trying to separate the two is wrong. I think if you do become champion, most times you are promised a big check. And I think one goes hand in hand. So when fighters that were young said they wanted to become world champions, they didn't just mean they wanted to become world champions. They meant they wanted to settle or secure their future by becoming a world champion and thus getting money. So I don't think we should try and separate the two. Be a world champion and get money. And I think that's what boxing's been about for years.
If the guy who is paying the biggest purses says, to hell with those belts, come here and I'll pay you double, triple, they're going to laugh in the faces of those belts. Those belts don't stand a chance. This idea,
maybe
history to kids who are what does that mean? Like, it's like saying to someone, oh yeah, you should dream of being on linear television. You should dream of being on regular cable TV and not on YouTube because there's history. But the times change. Things evolve.
But every single sport, times do change. But the dream of every sports person, or I'd like to think the dream, and you speak to sports people every day, is to become a world champion or at least a champion in your field. It isn't necessarily about the money. That's not always the grab. And look, ultimately,
for these guys, come on.
No, ultimately, you have to get paid. Don't get me wrong. Look, it's the most dangerous sport in the world. Get paid. But there's still, I think fighters still harbor the dream of becoming a world champion. I still think that means something to fighters. And in today's age, maybe not as much as it once did. Because when you hear people like Mike Tyson say those belts were only there collecting dust, I can kind of understand how some people have changed their thinking. But I still think people want to become a world champion. I still believe it exists. And look, could it fade off eventually? Yes. But I speak to fighters nearly every day. Obviously, I'm at boxing events every single weekend, and I ask that question. Every fighter dreams of becoming a world champion. It's still something there. It still means a lot. Well, and I think that's not going to fade away anytime soon.
We had the very outspoken Lou DiBella on the program today, on my program earlier in the day. He had, it was 1 hour of fire, but want to play you this clip and get your reaction. Lou very much in agreement with Dana and Turkey that boxing is broken. He does not hide those feelings and those thoughts, and he is quite bullish on what is to come, and he is quite bullish on what is going to become of the promoters who once called him a middleman. He now believes they are in the same spot. Take a listen.
This was inevitable, right? And frankly, Turkey making the four major guys all his little peons, it made this much more doable. And now you have a company capitalized on the stock exchange to 26, 27 million, depending on how you measure it.
Right.
With UFC alone, capitalized 11 billion, 26, 27 billion, 11 billion, and economically supported by the deepest pockets in the world. They're pretty much well set up for this.
Yeah, he was spitting fire, and I have to say, once again, it's prize fighting. The public doesn't care who the IBF champion is. The boxers, the ones coming up, don't care. They're going to go where the biggest purses are. And I think everyone who is singing this tune about the history of the belts are going to find out very quickly that it wasn't about the belts. It was just about the purses. And if a WBC belt happens to bring you the biggest purse, great. But if these guys are now doing it, give me the ring championship, the TKO belt, I'll be happy with that. That's what they're all going to say. I have no doubt of that. Just look at what Canelo Alvarez he doesn't care. He honestly doesn't care. He's a businessman. Payday.
No. He doesn't care now. And look, this is, I think, the point I'm trying to get at. I think fighters, I think we mentioned Shakur Stevenson a few times just because he almost seems to be like the perfect person for them, right? The age just makes sense, the kind of the eyeballs they're trying to attract makes sense. And I do wonder if you've already become a world champion, and Shakur, for example, is a free weight world champion, then do you care necessarily about the belts? Maybe not. But I do think the fighters that are coming up that have never become world champions, I think they care about the belts. So you're right, Canelo doesn't care about a belt anymore. Not at all. Bivol, Usyk, Fury, AJ, they've won belts. But it's the ones coming up that haven't won, I think they still care. But yeah, the other ones, I mean, people have thrown belts away in the past. People have vacated belts. I mean, Canelo basically threw away his IBF. He's only doing it now just because obviously that's the fight that's been put in front of him. So I think the experienced pros don't, but I do think the younger ones do. I want to quickly just focus on sort of the boxing's broken narrative that's kind of been spun in the last week or so. I will say that boxing certainly isn't broken now. I mean, it's fractured still, but it isn't broken. I think a year and a half before Turkey entered the scene, it was certainly broken. I do think it's more broken in America than maybe across Europe. I mean, once HBO decided to kind of not play a part in it and Showtime decided to kind of say, okay, enough's enough, and we wait to see what ESPN are going to do with Top Rank, you can kind of understand why people say boxing is broken in America. I think across Europe, it's thriving. I mean, there are stadium shows, arenas are packed. As you know, boxing's spoken about here on radio stations every single day. It's still doing the back pages and the front pages. I think in America, it seems to have dropped down from where it once was. I think boxing's broken in America, but not necessarily around the world.
Couldn't agree more. And I actually said that to Lou earlier today. He was focused very much on America. And you know, in his defense, Dana White last week was speaking about America, saying that we need to build it here and then expand. But yes, 100%. It's a totally different story. You talk about the most popular fighters in the world. They're way more popular overseas than they are here. Yeah. And so there are issues. I don't even agree. By the way, I would be a massive hypocrite if I sit here and say that boxing is quote unquote broken, because just a few weeks ago I was saying it's never been more fun to cover boxing. Yeah. And so part of the fun of covering boxing is how crazy and wacky it all is. But boxing isn't broken. Boxing is boxing. You know what I mean? It's the same sort of structure as the last 20, 30, even 40 years. It was a little bit more consolidated in the 70s and 80s, and there were less champions. And when someone like Lou says, we did this to ourselves, he's right. We've got an interim super welterweight champion coming up, and we've got, you know, the gold super lightweight champion and all these different intercontinental and all this stuff. It makes it very hard to follow the sport. So the idea of streamlining things, less belts, less weight classes, less divisions, I think is going to prove to be very successful for them. So yes, there are things that need to evolve and change. Yeah, no, you don't think that that's a good move. I mean, obviously, you might be limiting yourself if you do that, and you have to be very strategic. You might be, you know, leaving some weight classes behind. But it sounds to me like they're going to try and recreate the model of when they sort of relaunched the UFC. They whittled things down. They got rid of weight classes. They built up the main ones that they believed were the main ones, and then they started to reintroduce the newer ones, the lighter ones.
You know, this new weight class, obviously, look, boxing started, if you like, with 8 weight classes. And then now I think there's 18 if you count Bridgerweight, which a lot of the governing bodies don't, but it's there. It's a weight class. My issue with that is, okay, let's just throw, for example, TKO's potential first event, right? Canelo versus Crawford, 168-pound fight. That wasn't a weight class that existed. That's one of the new weight classes. Are we going to get rid of that? Are we going to get rid of the cruiserweight division, which I think's proved to be one of the best divisions in boxing in recent years? I mean, Alexander Usyk came from that. Jaya Pataia, I think, is going to be a pound for pounder. So I think we've got to be careful with which weight classes we get rid of. Are we going to look to cut the smaller guys, kind of like what the UFC did? Yet the smaller guys in recent years have provided some fantastic boxing for us. Inoue's come from that weight class. Jesse Bam Rodriguez has come from the lower weight classes. Chocolatito, Estrada. I can go on and on and on. So I think we've got to be careful in which weight classes we remove. If we keep to the standard 8 that we started with, not all the best stars are there at the moment. So it's interesting. It's intriguing. Again, we're only getting little snippets from Dana and other people. So this is all still a puzzle we're trying to put together. But I'm not sure about the weight classes thing. I think that we've got to be careful what we do there, because some fighters are just literally stuck and strict in a weight. And it's a weight that's been there for the past 40, 50 years. So I don't know.
Let's move on to some other news, some breaking news, if you will.
Have we got the noise? Okay.
Oh, Frankie, what happened? Wrong music.
Sorry about that.
Oh, Frankie.
Shocking. You had one job, Frankie. You had one job.
One job. There it is. Okay. I mean, Mulligan. It's all good. Sky Sports reporting that Chris Eubank Jr. fined $100,000 by the British Boxing Board of Control for the egg slap.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Now,
Nonsense.
I've reached out to his team. I've reached out to Eubank's team. No response just yet, but this is what they are reporting. Your thoughts on the $100,000 slap? Seems a little excessive, does it not?
A little? That's ridiculous. Honestly, that's ridiculous. I mean...
Pounds, by the way. I'm American. I should have said pounds.
No. Yeah, which is even more then. It's like $130,000.
Yeah.
But no, that's beyond excessive. Some of the things that I've seen growing up as a kid watching press conferences, I mean, that was almost timid compared to what I've seen. I mean, I've seen David Hay and Derek Chisora go at it. I've seen Chisora do everything at press conferences. And I mean, he must be broke then because he must have been fined millions. But I just think it's excessive. It's not like this is in Chris Eubank's nature. So it's almost a slap on the wrist because, okay, Chris, you've been fantastic at every other single press conference before. You've been hurled at abuse and you've always controlled yourself and dealt with everything magnificently. The one time you let it slip, we're going to fine you £100,000. I mean, I'm embarrassed for the British Boxing Board of Control, and hopefully Chris sort of counters that and tries to get his money back or doesn't pay. I don't know, but that's excessive.
I don't know if he cannot pay. I mean, they are sanctioning the event. My first thought was, remember he said that he was going to pay all the undercard fighters who didn't fight 3 years ago when they were supposed to fight? I hope he doesn't say, oh yeah, well now that you're fining me, I'm not doing that anymore, because now it's
where did they get that number from? This is what annoys me.
Yeah.
Where did it, like, it's not like, where's they just made it up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, say Chris was an undercard fighter fighting for an area title, a very minimal title. Is that person going to get fined 100,000? It's almost like they know that what he's going to get paid for the fight, and they've decided, we're going to take a chunk of that, because 100,000's a joke. Honestly, I'm so disappointed to hear that, and I can't wait for Chris and his team to release a statement, because knowing Chris the way I know Chris, he's not willingly giving up 100 grand.
No,
it's just not happening.
I can't wait to hear a statement. I also thought, and I know the British Boxing Board of Control doesn't oversee the Misfits events, but then, what happens to KSI, who slapped Dylan Dennis with a pancake? Does he get fined now too? Or do they get to play by a different set of rules?
A different set of rules. Honestly, a different set of rules.
And I bet you when someone speaks to them, maybe it's Robert Smith, right? He's one of the top guys over there. I bet you he'll say, oh, the shell could have gotten in his eye. It could have postponed the fight. This was, a dangerous object. I bet you they'll come out with something, but the promoters will tell you behind the scenes, this only made the fight bigger, right? It got it on 100%. The back page. It got the boxing world to speak about a press conference, not a fight on fight week, but a press conference. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do. I'm not condoning this sort of thing. But everyone is standing to gain, including the British Boxing Board of Control, as a result of what happened, as a result of this maneuver from Chris Eubank. So it seems a little hefty, if you ask me. £100,000 is a lot of money. Is a lot of freaking money.
And again, and I go back to, I mean, you kind of find someone that amount of money if they have previous. If they have priors, you're like, okay, look, you've done this so many times before. We have to smash a peanut with an axe, so to speak. We have to really kind of set an example. Chris isn't like that. It was out of character for Chris. So I don't know why you'd go so heavy with that number. Again, I think I'd be shocked if that isn't whittled down to like 50 or even 25. And it's a case of, okay, just pay it and move on. I'll be shocked if Chris pays 100,000.
In case you're wondering what that is in US dollars, that's about 130,000 US dollars. So yeah, that's
what Draymond Green gets fined for doing, for like elbows and knees.
Everyone made those jokes about how expensive eggs are these days. Those are officially the most expensive eggs of all time. Let us say hello to our guest. He is one of the best and brightest young boxers in the game. He is the interim super welterweight champion representing the WBC. We just saw him a couple of weeks ago in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. a very impressive win over Israel Madrimov. He is Virgil Ortiz Jr., kind enough to join us. Hello, Virgil. How are you?
Doing great. How about yourself? How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for the time. Could I ask you off the bat, we were debating all the stuff going on with Turkey and TKO and perhaps moving away from WBC and IBF and the traditional model of these sanctioning body belts. As an interim WBC champion, how do you feel about this potential?
I just learned about this through one tweet, so I have kind of no context to go on. As far as I can tell, I think they're trying to make it into some kind of UFC thing, right? Which is kind of like one belt, or one organization.
Exactly.
Okay. It can be a good thing. I don't know. I feel like this is changing the whole sport of boxing, and I don't know if I'm qualified enough to even have an opinion on that. I just fight people, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I understand the logic behind it. I really do. It's just a huge change. So I just don't know how that would impact the sport.
Sure. And obviously it's not going to happen overnight, and it'll probably take 3, 4, 5 years for it to really come into place. But I was curious, as someone who's now been in the game for quite some time and is rising up the ranks and many more belts to come your way. Can I ask about your last fight? In retrospect now, just a few weeks removed, happy with your performance against Madrimov?
Yeah, very happy. Yes, I've looked the fight over one time, maybe the day after or so, and I felt pretty good about it. I think comfortably I won it. I think I want to give up 3 rounds, 4 at the max. A lot of people said that I gave up the rounds in the beginning, that I was just following them around. Man, there was a lot of times when I was watching the video back, and I was just there were so many times where they didn't see the little jabs, me popping his head back or him throwing punches, and I was just catching them with my gloves. Not only was he moving a lot, but he didn't throw a whole lot. He definitely didn't throw as much as I did. And while the rounds were fairly slow in the beginning, I thought I didn't think he really did. And I didn't think the fight was as close as some of the scorecards had it.
I thought you were fantastic. I reached out to your team, I think the day after, and I said, look, Virgil Ortiz, in terms of value for money, I mean, I would pay anything to go and watch a Virgil Ortiz fight. I thought you were great. I thought Madrimov,
thank you,
maybe came out very fast, and he's kind of got that tricky style. But then once you kind of sort of knuckled down in his style, I felt like he was fighting your style, and you just don't do that. You don't do that at all. If you were to grade your performance, what would you give it?
Sticking to the game plan, not getting hit with many big shots, I would give myself a solid A. Not an A+ or A-, just a solid A.
Yeah. What was it like kind of being sandwiched in that car? Because anywhere else, I mean, that fight happens in America anywhere. You're the main event, right? And you're coming out kind of middle of the ground. What was it like fighting at that kind of time, number one, fighting in Saudi Arabia? Obviously, you were there for Latino night, but what was the whole experience like for you?
The whole experience, it was a very unique experience, I would say. Just being around that, everyone fighting on that card was, a top tier caliber fighter, and just being around that kind of skill, it just kind of it humbles you a little bit. I'm probably not the best one here. You have Bivol, you have Benavidez, and it's just something that is honestly a really cool feeling. It's a weird thing to say, but that's just how it was. I'm just man, it's sometimes when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm just happy to be here," it's not really a good thing, because they're just satisfied with that. But I was happy to be there, and I did my thing. And that was it. I honestly was very excited and happy to be there. Very happy and honored to take part of the whole thing, and I would love to go back.
I appreciate that candor and humility. A lot of people wouldn't say that, so thank you very much for that. In the immediate aftermath, both you and your promoter, the great Oscar De La Hoya, the Hall of Famer, talked about trying to potentially get a Terrence Crawford fight, but it seems like he's going to wait for this potential super fight against Canelo Alvarez in September. We see Canelo, though, agreeing to fight in May against William Skull. Can you tell us more about this? Was this ever a real thing, and are you disappointed that he is choosing to sit out as opposed to fighting someone like you in the interim?
Well, I try to think about it from everyone's point of view. If I was Crawford and they offer me the Canelo fight, I'm gonna take the Canelo fight. It's kind of like the whole thing where certain people are saying that I ducked them to fight a harder fight. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. If I were to say that, then I'd be a hypocrite, and I'm not a hypocrite. So I got to put respect where it's due. I would fight Canelo too if I had the opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime thing. He's an all time great. I don't think the fight happens. I've spoken to certain people that I don't want to name, but it's like 99% not happening.
Okay.
Very unfortunate because I would have loved to test my skills against him. I admire Crawford. He's a very intelligent, skillful fighter. But it's just it's not on the table, but that's okay.
Well, maybe down the line, that would be an incredible fight, and even bigger if he pulls off the upset against Canelo Alvarez. And what about these comments regarding the Alcatraz fight, or potentially fighting in late June? And I've seen your father weigh in on this as well on social media. Kathy Duva weighing in on it as well. Are there talks of you fighting? Because now I'm hearing that maybe the Alcatraz card is going to be pushed down. So what could you tell us about this? Was this ever a real thing?
So I learned about it with everyone else on Twitter, and I'm just like, that's why I didn't say anything about it, because I don't speak on anything unless I know 100% what's going on. And I learned about it on Twitter like everybody else. I'm just like, okay, what's going on? And I talked to my manager, and I talked to my dad, and just trying to get into the loop of things. And as far as right now, because I heard it's supposed to happen in June or something, right? Well, my hands are not ready for it. I have a cut on my that I got in the fight because of the headbutts that it's not ready, so the chances of that happening is slim to none, so, I'm not ready to fight on that card if it happens. That's just the logic of it.
I remember when we spoke at Latino Night, right? I mean, that was a few months back, but we spoke and I asked you for your 3-2-1 back then. And at the time, I think number 3 was Sebastian Fundora, number 2 was Jared Ennis, and number 1 was Terence Crawford. In the end, you got Madrimov, which I thought, to be fair, would have been number 4 on that list. I think you said that as well. If I asked you to do your 3-2-1 or your 1-2-3 now, what 3 names are you sort of hunting for come the summer or the winter of 2025?
Fundora for sure. He has the WBC. You got, let's see, I believe Charlo's a good fight. There's a lot of people saying that he's done, and then you got people saying that I can't beat him. So there's a good kind of, I don't know, I feel like people would love to see that fight. I think that he's a good fighter, and I would love to, the opportunity to fight him, As for 3, probably Murtazaliev. I think that he's a good fighter as well. That's a fight that everyone wants to see. I was reading all the tweets. Everyone was excited about it, and I'm not one to shy away from a fight. So I think that's a very good fight as well.
So interesting, because Murtazaliev has been talking about potentially fighting you, and I think Oscar has been saying, okay, maybe not that yet because there are other plans. I always say Virgil always seems to go to the fire, where other fighters are like, yeah, I'll take that one. Virgil's like, no, give me the toughest one. One name you didn't mention was Boots. And obviously there was some talk about you potentially fighting Boots. Obviously Boots has got Stanionis coming up. I think Boots goes to 154 if he beats Stanionis. Is that gone, that fight now? Is that a fight that could be revisited at 154? Or do you feel like Boots wouldn't fight you? What's the situation there?
It's just not on my near future plan. You know what I mean? I think the more realistic fights, he's at 147. We thought he was coming up. That's why I brought the name up before. I thought he was coming up to 154 and we were going to fight. Well, if he's at 147, then, I don't call out other people at 147, and I don't call out people that are at 160. I'm just focusing on people that are at my weight. That's all it is. As far as potential fight, of course, I'm down for any fight.
I have a confession to make, Virgil, and I'm curious how you're going to perceive me after I say this to you. I have never read a single word, a single chapter of a Harry Potter book. I've never seen a single second of a Harry Potter film. Your thoughts on me?
You haven't seen the movies, bro?
I have not seen a second, a millisecond.
Me neither.
Okay, but the both of us. I didn't want to speak on his behalf. What are your thoughts on us now?
I think I gotta go. I got something to do.
For real, you're that big of. You read these books during fight week, right? To let yourself calm down and you read them over and over again.
So I had the third book. I was on the third book because I was over there, and I was doing these hyperbaric chambers, and they didn't let us bring our phones in there. So the second time I went, I brought my book that I was reading anyways, just to pass the time. And man, I was enjoying it. Right now, I'm on the fourth book, and it's like 700 pages, man. I'm like at 600 right now. It's long, but I can't get enough of it. I just passed a very crucial part that I was dreading to read because I know what happens. I've seen the book. I mean, I've seen the movies like 100 times, and I had to like take a moment to like, this about to happen. I just had to like sit for like 5 minutes, like down, and I read it, and yeah, it hit worse than the actual movies. But you know, the fans know what I'm talking about. It's the fourth movie. But yeah, I love the movies. The books are great, and yeah, I'm just a big Harry Potter fan, man.
Which are better? Which do you enjoy more, the movies or the books?
I would say, well, you know, it's kind of you kind of got to have both for me as a fan because I've seen the movies and the movies are, you know, appealing to my eyes. You know, just seeing all the magic and you know, just you know, all the fights are badass, and the books just have that extra bit of information that answers a lot of questions in the movies that got left out. So you need both. But if I were to have to choose one for the rest of my life, I'd say movies for sure.
Virgil, going back to the Madrimov performance, I mean, I could hear you talk Harry Potter all day, but I mean, you're a boxer first and foremost. Going back to that Madrimov performance, I mean, I was there all week and, you know, I spoke to so many media members and everyone was like, it's a 50-50 fight. Madrimov's very, very tough. Considering all the talk, considering that it was the greatest fight card ever, was that your best performance by far, or was there something in the past that you think beats that?
I think that it's top three. I would say it's right up there with the Mauricio Herrera fight because that fight I think I had the same kind of calmness and poise that I had in that fight and this fight as well. And against a very tough opponent. I think I stuck to I stayed calm the whole time and was able to execute everything that we wanted to do.
Good. A quick word on Robert Garcia. I think the best trainer in boxing, rightly so, trainer of the year last year. I listened to him in your corner, and obviously you guys have had that relationship for years now alongside your father. Just give me a quick word on Robert Garcia and just the man, because we don't really get to speak to Robert that much. He doesn't really talk. The most times I do see him is on Eddie Setback videos, and that's about it. He doesn't really say anything to media. What's Robert like as a trainer?
Robert is first of all, above everything else, he's a good man. That he is one of the best men that I know, and he's just a really good guy. And he takes that into the sport of boxing. He takes care of his fighters, you know. And I don't mean just like the cuts or the boxing advice. You know, he says you need to look forward to the future and like take care of yourself financially, like buy some houses and all this stuff. I tell him, I hear him telling this to other fighters all the time. So he takes care of us. And as far as, you know, being a trainer, you know, I don't have to even say he's the 2024, you know, Ring Magazine Trainer of the Year. But not only that, he doesn't have an ego. You know, he asks for input from my dad, from Hector, from other coaches as well. And he also, before the fight, they all kind of get together and they discuss like who's gonna talk when or what, or everyone's on the same game plan. We have a game plan and we work as a team. You have to have that chemistry, you know. And Robert he doesn't have an ego to where, oh, I'm the head coach, I'm gonna be the only one talking. You know, Robert, that's why I say he brings that good person into the whole trainer aspect because he knows it's for the best for the fighter.
You mentioned Sebastian Fundora. He returns to action not this weekend, next weekend against Chordell Booker. I'm curious, do you think he wins? Are you hoping that he wins so that could potentially line up for a fight against you?
You know, respectfully, I haven't seen Booker fight. or at least I don't think I have. I'll have to probably look at his box rec to see if I caught one of his fights before. I mean, I'm a back to champion for sure on this one. But we just have to wait and see. I can't really give you I'm gonna have to give you a boring answer on this one because I haven't seen him fight.
Okay, so but it's safe to say that you probably want Fundora to win because that's the big fight. Now, if in fact he does win and maybe they're able to figure it out, realistically, when do you want to return to action?
As soon as my hands get better and I can start training.
Okay, so what are they saying? Ooh. Fall, winter?
So I saw a doctor already, and I'm actually going to go see one this coming week just to kind of confirm on things. So yeah, we'll see around there.
All right, cool. By the way, one last thing. I saw this incredible mural. We're going to show it to you now. You probably know the one I'm talking about that was posted on social media just a couple of days ago.
Oh, wow.
This is amazing stuff. Who did this? Yeah. Where is this? And how does that make you feel seeing someone do this in honor of you?
Yes. First of all, so they painted this at the gym that I train at. So I used to train at a gym called Irving Police Athletic Academy. They put it in the actual gym, and to me that's crazy because look, they have pictures of me when I was a kid and other fighters as a kid, and the city didn't allow them to put those pictures on the wall, but yet they allowed them to put this huge mural onto the wall of me, and I'm just like, that it meant something. Like, it meant a lot. It really did. I'm just like, wow, and it really does mean a lot. The person who painted it was Juan Velasquez, and he had some help from other artists, I'm sure. I don't know their names, but respect to them. Thank you to them. But it's very humbling, man. There's a lot of kids that train there. I was one of those kids that trained at Irving Powell as well growing up, and I hope it motivates them. That they can do it too. It's not impossible.
What an incredible honor, and well earned and deserved. Most importantly, before we let you go, Virgil, a very happy birthday to your grandmother. I think yesterday was her birthday, so
yes,
wishing her the very best. And great to see all the success. Congrats on the recent win. Looking forward to your return later this year, my man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it so much.
All right, there he is, Virgil Ortiz Jr. You were at his fight in February. You were at the Latino Night fight just a few months prior. Your thoughts on his ceiling? Can he be one of those top dogs in the next year or two?
Yeah, without a doubt. If he's not, something's gone wrong somewhere. I think, for me, he's one of the most exciting fighters to watch. I'd have him in my top 5 sort of fighters that I would pay to watch. I think he's incredible. I think he's all action. And I think this test against Madrimov was a test. I mean, I know a lot of people that were picking Madrimov to win that one. Bear in mind what Madrimov done against Crawford. Everyone's like, okay, look, Madrimov can push Crawford. He might cause Virgil problems. And Virgil, I think by his own admission, wasn't his best against Boychuk. So people kind of put 2 and 2 together. But Virgil came out, and I think the first 3 or 4 rounds, I thought Madrimov was sort of having his way. And then Virgil just kind of went up a gear that Madrimov simply didn't have, and dominated. And he's very aggressive. He's brutal. He stalks you. I think he's got everything. I really do. I only hope that he gets a super fight at the 154-pound division. I don't know if Fundora is a super fight. I can kind of see why he's calling that Jermell Charlo, because that might be that. Remember, Jermell Charlo only lost to Canelo at 154 pounds. Jermell Charlo was undisputed. So I can see what he's trying to do. But I think he's got a star there. And I think eventually he will land at 160 as well. I think Oscar's got something special there.
Well, if it's not Terence Crawford next, and it's probably not going to be, because let's be honest, taking a fight against Virgil Ortiz isn't exactly like taking a fight against William Skull. With all due respect, it's a massive risk for a guy who has a gigantic fight waiting in the wings come September. Would love to see him fight Fundora if in fact Fundora gets by Booker on the 22nd of March. Interim champ, WBC champ, unify those belts, and then move on and fight some.
I want to see Boots. I want to see Boots.
Yeah, if Boots finally moves
I think
up,
it's got to be Boots. I think if Boots beats Stanionis, I think Boots ain't hanging around. I mean, I don't know if Boots wants to become undisputed. Eddie's tried to make fights with the other champions, and they haven't kind of worked out for whatever reason. Boots has always spoken about it being tight at 147 pounds. Boots a big guy as well. He's as big as Virgil. I've been around both of them. I think that is your super fight. It's not Canelo Crawford, don't get me wrong, but it's a super fight. And I would love to see that one. 2 guys. Remember, Virgil Ortiz was a 147 guy as well, not too long ago. Mm-hmm. So he's not like he's a 160 guy coming down to the 154 division. He's gone up to it. So I think it makes sense. I like that fight.
Let's move along. The big controversy of last week happened right here in New York, in Brooklyn to be exact. Fight between Tank Davis and Lamont Roach. We all know what happens. We don't need to revisit all of it, but we were wondering if the New York State Athletic Commission was going to, in fact, reverse the majority draw decision, and their decision was not to do that. The Ring has learned via the New York State Athletic Commission that, quote, since the bout continued for more than 3 full rounds after the referee's no knockdown call, and because the boxers necessarily adjusted to the referee's ruling, the referee's call was not outcome determinative. So they are keeping it a draw. I say hogwash. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If that's a knockdown, it's a 10-8, and Roach wins the fight. What the hell? But let's be honest. Are we surprised? No.
No. Look, I said this. I said that, and you agreed as well. I said the New York State Athletic Commission are not going to do anything. Why would they want to rule against Gervonta Davis in any way, shape, or form? I mean, we all know the gate. The gate was the second biggest gate ever at the Barclays. You want to be in the Gervonta Davis business. You don't want to get that man upset and then he decides to kind of fight in Vegas or anywhere else. So why would you rule against him? If I'm Lamont Roach, you kind of expected that. You're only hoping now that the WBA can see sense and do something about it. But I think it's very unlikely, if I'm honest with you. I think Lamont Roach just missed his moment. And unless he forces it with his promoter and no one else seems to be doing anything, Gervonta Davis moves on and fights someone else. I just can't. It's even gone quiet between those two on social media.
No. Yeah. I think you couldn't be more wrong.
It's gone quiet. Remember, they were going at each other 2 days.
I think it went quiet because there's a deal in place for them to fight in the next few months. His promoter, Lamont Roach, came out and said it. Tank seems to think like I need to rectify this. No, I could not disagree more. This is the fight that's going to happen, and it's the fight that should happen. And yes, he got screwed, and yes, if he won the fight, the immediate rematch would have brought him even more money. But let's be honest, if the fight went the way in which we all thought it was going to go, he would not be fighting Tank Davis again, and that brings a certain amount of money as well. So there is a consolation prize there, and he has had to defend himself, which I think is crazy. People thinking that he is suing Tank, that he is suing New York. He's not doing that. His team had to appeal this. They would be doing... It would be managerial malpractice if they didn't at least do their due diligence and try to appeal this, because it was so blatant, and there were multiple issues at play in that 9th round. The knockdown, the Calvin Ford situation where he goes on the apron and wipes Tank's face, and then the no replay. So they had to do it, but in the end, we all expected it not to be reversed. In the end, they're going to run it back. I suspect they run it back in the next few months, and hopefully we get a decisive winner. But no, I can't imagine they move on from this. That would be a true travesty for Lamont Roach. He does not deserve that. Rematch, everyone wins. Tank gets a decisive win or not, and we get a decisive winner.
I don't know, Ariel. Look, I mean, I know the amount that you want Lamont Roach to get his deserved rematch, and I think there's a million people behind you that also want to see Lamont Roach get it. But I almost feel like if one of the big boys steps up, and when I say one of the big boys, I mean Keyshawn Shakur or Vasily Lomachenko, unfortunately, Lamont Roach goes pedaling backwards. It's just, it is what it is. And I don't think there'll be any uproar from anyone if one of those three that I just mentioned fight Gervonta instead of Lamont Roach. If not, then you're right. I'm all swinging for Lamont Roach to get his opportunity. But I'm hearing whispers of Vasily Lomachenko, and those whispers are becoming louder and louder and louder.
All right, well, we'll see who is right on this one. I maintain that they run it back, and that is the right thing to do. Now, we were wondering whether they would run it back with Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. It sounds now like we are moving closer and closer to Benavidez versus Bivol. Some interesting stuff going on here. What do you make of how this is all played out? The last time we spoke, when you were here on Thursday, we talked about the WBC ordering this fight. And since then, Turkey has said that he is not going to bid on it. And since then, it seems like it is becoming more and more of a real thing. Your feelings, your thoughts?
This is so interesting because on the one hand, I've seen 24 rounds of Beterbiev Bivol, and I think, look, me and you've agreed it could be 11-13, it could be 12-12. Do I want to see another 12 rounds, or do I want to see someone else? I almost want to see someone else. I want to see the Bivol Benavidez fight, but I think it's right to give Beterbiev the trilogy. It's one apiece. We need to know who is the best out of these two. We need to know who is the best light heavyweight of this generation. It's 1-1. There should be a trilogy. And I remember when you had Jim Lampley in, and he was saying you don't have to do a trilogy back to back to back, and he's correct. But in this case, you do because of Beterbiev's age. I don't think you can wait this out. We can't wait till Beterbiev's 42 for him to get in the ring with Bivol. You almost need to see Beterbiev fight now, or I think we miss it. And I think Bivol's got a bit of an issue here as well. Do you potentially fight Benavidez, which would be a PBC event, or do you almost continue to fight for the person that opened the doors for you, Turkey, and fight Beterbiev as a Riyadh season event? I think he sticks with Turkey. No one was bidding for the Bivol Beterbiev fight. No one was willing to pay for that. Both fighters wanted to get paid. Both fighters knew, and their camps knew, that if this fight went on pay-per-view, it wouldn't do good numbers. Someone needed to pay for it, and Turkey was the one that kind of stumped up the cash. If you're Bivol, you're loyal to that man, and I think you go to the Beterbiev rematch and give him what he wants, or trilogy and give him what he wants. So I don't think we're going to get the Benavidez fight anytime soon. I think we go straight to the trilogy, which I would prefer to see Benavidez,
yes.
But I can understand why Bivol would go the trilogy route.
Yeah, no, I understand it as well. As a fan, like you said, we saw 24 rounds. Would love to see something fresh. This fight, Benavidez-Bivol, way bigger here in America. We just saw Benavidez carry a promotion with David Morrell, and Morrell did his part as well, but they sold out T-Mobile. A lot of people thought they wouldn't be able to do that. And now you bring in Dimitri Bivol, who a lot of American fans remember was the guy to beat Canelo Alvarez just a few years back. I think it would be a gigantic fight.
Really? Do you really, though?
It would be a big fight.
The numbers came back, and I mean, who do you believe when we talk about numbers, right? But I think the pay-per-view numbers came back, and I was surprised that they weren't a lot bigger, because I think you did a fantastic job with the face-off between those two. I think both of them, Morrell and Benavidez, sold that event.
What were the numbers?
Well.
I didn't see the numbers. What were they?
So hopefully someone in the back can get us for them. But I think just shy of 100,000, I think.
And that doesn't surprise me. Let's be honest. The PBC move to Amazon hasn't quite worked out the way in which they want. I mean, Keith Thurman is fighting tomorrow morning on YouTube. I mean, like, it doesn't, with all due respect, we're on YouTube right now, as well as the DAZN app, but it hasn't quite worked out the way we all thought it was going to work out. And so the promotion isn't quite there. You know, like, it's not the same. It's not the same as when it was on Showtime. Do you not agree? It doesn't have the same muscle behind it.
I agree. So my argument, and the reason I brought up the numbers is because how much are you going to pay Bivol then? I mean, regardless of if it does a great gate, but ultimately the big numbers come from pay-per-view. How much can you guarantee Bivol compared to how much can Turkey guarantee him if he fights Beterbiev? And I can tell you now, Turkey's guarantee will be colossal compared to Bivol Benavidez. And Benavidez is a risk for Bivol. So you weigh up the risk reward. You're thinking, okay, no, we'll stick with Turkey. I kind of like that money over there,
100%.
As opposed to what PBC are going to give me.
I actually think Benavidez wins that fight. And yes, I do. I think Benavidez wins that fight. And I'll say this: Dimitri Bivol has just been through the ringer 24 rounds in the span of 5 months, 4.5 months with Artur Beterbiev. That takes a toll. That takes a toll on you. I think Benavidez wins that
so
fight.
does David Morrell. I mean, that takes a toll on the body as well.
Sure.
I think it's a great fight. Honestly, I think it's a great fight. I will edge to Bivol. I just think Bivol and Beterbiev are a level above anything else at 175, but it could be a big 3 as opposed to a big 2. And Benavidez could be the guy that causes problems for both of them. Younger, fresher, as big. But I will edge to Mr. Undisputed. And I mean, come on, I ain't doing it again. I went against him once. I'm not going against him again. Bivol has the skills to pay the bills. And I think he's a bit too skillful for our friend Benavidez. That's what I think.
Well, let's see if they make the fight. It might be a moot point after all. A fight that we all would love to see is Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. I still am holding out hope that it is going to happen. And yesterday, Tyson Fury playing with our emotions as he posts on social media, "Did you miss me?" And it's him walking out at that decrepit stadium, Old Trafford. What? You don't believe me? They're getting rid of it. Did they not announce today that they're getting rid of it?
It's leaking. The roof is leaking.
Yeah, it's decrepit. And we come to find that he's just going to be a coach at Soccer Aid or something like that, some charity soccer match.
It's massive. It's a massive charity football match.
It's not as big as Sidemen. Let's be honest. And it's not as big as Sidemen.
No, I agree. It's certainly not as big as
that. What is this from Tyson? Why play with our emotions?
I don't know what he's doing. It kind of annoyed me because I was like, "Oh,
did you think? Did you believe it? Did you believe it?"
I did. I posted it on my Instagram story, then I deleted it about 20 seconds later.
He got you.
Adam Cattrall said, "ADE, it's Soccer Aid." I was like, "What?" I couldn't delete it as quick as I was so annoyed. But I'm like, "What's he doing?" I mean, Look, I mean, who am I to tell Tyson Fury that you shouldn't spend time with your wife and kids? And, you've given us a great career. And again, we always talk about how dangerous the sport is. But come on, Tyson. Like, this is the only fight we've been speaking about for a decade. A decade. And for some reason, people still want to see it. I mean, both are not what they once were, but it still has so much intrigue. And look, AJ wants it. AJ continually speaks about it. It's Fury now. And I just can't believe that Fury's holding this up. It shocks me that if anyone, I thought it might be AJ, like, no, this and that negotiation. It's Fury. And it just annoys me. It really does. Look, I'm like you. I still think it will happen. I feel like there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. And I wouldn't be shocked if some form of a conversation has already started. And I mean, like, Fury, are you even interested? Like, a little bit. I wouldn't even be shocked if they've started that. It's a fight for the summer, stadium fight. Could happen at Old Trafford. Unlikely, but could happen there. It has to happen. It has to happen.
I think the summer might be a little bit too soon.
Why?
I wouldn't be surprised, if only because I wouldn't be surprised they do Canelo Crawford September 12th, and then they end the year with this. This could be the second big fight that they're talking about with this new group.
You know what the problem is with that? I mean, again, if you're saying end the year, you're potentially obviously talking about December.
Yeah, too cold.
And that can't, far too cold.
Yeah.
I mean, too cold, far too cold. Which, again, far too cold for the UK. Not far too cold for Riyadh. It's not far too cold for that.
That fight has to be in the UK. I mean,
dude,
travesty, right?
dude, they would go to the government.
Right.
People would march on 10 Downing Street if this fight wasn't happening in the UK.
Right.
It's just too big. Both of them have had stadium fights here, sold out stadium fights. I mean, the tickets would they thought Conor Benn and Eubank tickets went quick. These ones I can't imagine the people in the queue, the number in the queue waiting for tickets for this one. But as it stands right now, ain't happening.
Well, we are not getting that fight anytime soon, but I tell you which fight we are getting in the heavyweight division. Johnny Fisher, Bosch, against Dave Allen to May 17th at the Copper Bosch, by the way. Not to be confused with the Copper Box that was officially announced last week. Big fight for Johnny Fisher, if you ask me. Johnny Fisher has to prove that he can beat Dave Allen, and he has to prove that he is better than Dave Allen, that he's a level above him so he can advance with his career. I know there was some talk of maybe not taking this fight. Again, when you win by the skin of your teeth, when it's controversial, when you're a guy who has all this, buzz surrounding him, you win a fight like that, you got to go back. You got to take a step back, right the wrong in order to take two steps forward. I'm happy the team made the right call and ran this one back.
Yeah, he had to. Again, Johnny Fisher's got a massive following. He'll fill out the Copper Box. I think it holds like 8,000. It will be sold out, which for someone that's not had that many fights, I mean, that's an achievement. But ultimately, following's one thing. Can you deliver in the ring? And I think they have high hopes for Johnny. But you're right. It isn't just a case of beating Dave Allen. Like, you can't go life and death with Dave Allen because then we know where you are. You almost need to beat him convincingly to move on to that next step, a British title, maybe even something a bit more. So there's a lot of pressure on Johnny Fisher. I've been around him. He's lost weight. He looks like he's trying to lean up a little bit. Obviously, he's a big boy. And I think maybe he's going to work on the gas tank. He looked a bit tired, didn't he, towards the latter end of that fight. So maybe that's something they can improve. And I think he'll realize, and I think his team realize as well, that as you go further higher in this boxing game, people can take a punch. Like, Johnny Fisher's known for knocking people out. What can you do when people start eating those punches? Like, what else have you got? So I think it's a case of working on those things. But let's not forget as well, not much of an amateur record. He's a rugby player in school. That's kind of where the size comes from. So he's learning on the game. But the problem is we're almost fast pacing the learning now because he is a big star. So a lot of pressure on him, but I think he'll get the job done this time.
By the way, who'd you score that fight for?
Dave Allen.
Yeah.
Dave Allen. Yeah, it was close. It was close, but I think Dave Allen did enough. I mean, everyone's got this kind of retrospective scoring. I mean, on the day, a lot of people scored it for Dave Allen. All of a sudden, people are kind of switching. Like, oh no, I think Johnny maybe won rounds 1-6. I'm like, no. We all thought Dave Allen won it. Let's not change our opinion because we like him. I like Dave Allen. I like his dad. I think everyone's fantastic in their team. But I thought Dave Allen did enough to get the job done.
Would have loved to see this fight on the Ben Eubank card. on a big platform in the UK. But I am happy that it's happening in the UK. The first fight, of course, happened in Riyadh. But this is a nice main event, and it's a nice opportunity for him to, like I said, right the wrong, win the fight. I agree with you, by the way. I thought Dave Allen won the fight. I thought the scorecards were not good at all. And, some people are crying foul and saying that this is the guy that they wanted to win. Who knows with these situations? But let's get a clean winner. Let's run it back. And I'm looking forward to seeing that scene out there. May 17th, they're asking me to come out. They're asking me to be sort of like the honorary captain of the Rumford Bull Army. I don't know. I don't know if it's, if it's
I think you should. I think it would be fantastic to have you in Romford in Essex.
Oh, I love Romford.
Not too far away from me. We can go for a Chinese.
Have you been to the Blue Orchid, by the way?
I haven't. No.
You haven't been to the Blue Orchid?
I haven't.
Wow.
Dude, I will tell you this now, though.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you this. Now, business-wise, I mean, he must have shares in the company because people always say now, you try and phone up and get you have to be on the phone on hold for ages trying to get a meal. That's what Johnny Fisher and his dad have done to that place. So, I mean, well done in terms of building up local businesses. But no, I'm not really a Chinese eater myself. Wow. I try and, I'm trying, looking lean and trim.
Yeah.
I'm more of a salmon or a steak man, so
okay.
I've not been there. No.
All right. Well, it sounds fantastic. The way in which he speaks about it, it sounds like, I don't know, God's gift to food. So I would love to go. Essex and Rumford in the same spot, by the way? I didn't know this.
Yeah. Romford is in Essex.
Oh, but isn't Rumford... Isn't Essex posh and Rumford's not posh, or did I screw that up?
Yeah, no. Essex is not... Well, there's certain places in Essex which are considered quite posh, but Essex is a big place. Obviously, like ADE, Brentwood is part of Essex. So it's very, very... it spans quite a large area. And Romford is considered... Let's just say, let me be nice and polite here, the not posh part of Essex.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's as kind as I can get, yeah.
Okay, well, that's coming up on the 17th of May. It's another big weekend of action right here on DAZN. There's a big card coming up on Saturday in Orlando, headlined by Amo Williams. But before that, there's actually other cards that you need to know about. There is one in particular. We have the poster right over here. There it is. Yuri Cedeno against Ulises Tovar Rivera. Yes, that is March 14th. I know you're looking forward to that one. I am really looking forward to the one at the Caribe Royale, the Amo Williams card, because I think Amo is great. But I'm also looking forward to the return of Edgar Berlanga. Edgar Berlanga just kind of like sneaking onto this card. And what about Omari Jones, the Olympian?
Yeah, everyone's talking about him.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about him. I saw something today. I don't know if it was him referencing it, or someone saying he's like these guys. It was like, I'm Roy Jones, Floyd Mayweather, and someone rolled into one. I was like, steady. Let's calm down a little bit now.
I like it. I like the bluster.
That's what Chris Eubank Sr. said about Chris Eubank Jr. Let's all breathe a little bit, right? Roy Jones, Floyd, just be yourself. Just be yourself and be the best version that you can be, and then we'll judge you in about 10 fights, because I'm expecting it to be a very cakewalk affair for the first 10. But look, good luck to him. I like it. And you're good to point out Amo Williams as well. Obviously, this is still part of the rebuild since the Hamza Shiraz defeat. And hopefully Amo can get the job done, because I think Amo's been through a lot. And he's been open about his mental health and where he was and where he is now. And he's in such a good place now. And I just want him to continue to be in that good place. And aside from that, I think he's still a very good fixture in the 160-pound weight class.
Berlanga trying to rebuild himself after the Canelo loss, going from that fight to Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz. It's a step back, no doubt. But honestly, I was looking at the card.
It's about 20 steps back.
Yeah, okay, fine. I was trying to be.
You're trying to be nice. Stop it. Yeah. I want Helwani to come out.
I mean, he went from sold out T-Mobile to Caribe Royale against Jonathan
and he doesn't
Gonzalez
need
Ortiz.
to. I mean, what's the step back here? I mean, it's not like you got absolutely obliterated by Canelo. I get it if you get knocked out in a couple of rounds. You went all the way with the undisputed champ at the time. Like, why are we taking this many steps back? I don't understand the rebuild. I don't get it. And this is not a matchmaker issue. This would have been Belanga's team saying this is the kind of level of opponent we want. And I'll be honest, it doesn't make sense to me. There are too many very good.
Trying to build him back up, get his mojo back, get his his confidence.
He's got his mojo. I've never seen anyone more confidence. I've never seen
a nice win,
more human being than Berlanga.
This happens, right? De La Hoya told us about this. You build the guy back up.
Nah, yeah. If he gets splattered around the ring, like Devin maybe did against Ryan, but this wasn't the case. Berlanga even tried to go out and shield in the last couple of rounds. I mean, he was throwing haymakers. So nah, not for me. There are too many, as I said, too many good 168 pounds. Do we have to mention your friend Mbili again on the show? We do it every week. Should we do it again?
Yeah.
Should we do it again? You know what I mean?
That would be a fantastic one.
Pacheco's there, Caleb Plant's there. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
He has been talking about those guys next, but I don't know. Maybe they're trying to build him back up. And oh, by the way, 11 days from now, Matchroom returns to Australia. I do believe their first show in Sydney, and it is headlined by the ferocious one, George Kambosos. Yes, there it is. There's the promo. I was gonna lay out for the promo, but we're just gonna watch it. There you go. Shanika Johnson. Sky Nicholson, yeah,
against Jara Brown. You know what?
The build-up for that has been great. They did a great virtual face-to-face with those two.
I actually enjoyed that. That was a good one. And this kind of goes back to my point about the sport not being broken. I mean, how many events now are we having in Australia?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a worldwide sport now, right? I mean, it's not. So the talks of Dana White saying boxing is broken and it needs to be.
You're upset too. You and Oscar got your feelings hurt from that comment, huh?
Yeah, because I'm like, well, one second. There are events in Australia. There are events all over the world.
Really an indication of whether it's broken or not. Just that there's events in Australia.
No. Look, I
talking about the structure, the foundation.
I think but as you know and I know, this is boxing. It has been boxing like this for 100 years. So I mean, I don't know if it's broken. I think this is just the sport, unfortunately. Fractured, yes. Completely broken, no.
They're going to get rid of the Ali Act. They're gonna focus on America, and then they're going to build it up. You laugh, but it is coming. Time now for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time for.
Are we not talking about Keith Thurman quickly?
I mean, what do you want to say? You know, the reason why is because in 12 hours that fight is going to happen, and I don't really want to date us. But go ahead. Tell us about Keith Thurman, who's now saying that he wants to fight Tim Tszyu if he gets.
This is it. Obviously, that they've lined that fight up.
Okay, all right.
And you know what the thing about Keith? I like Keith a lot. Obviously, he's 36 now. I almost feel like because he's been, I was going to say inactive. He's not even been inactive. One fight in 5.5 years isn't inactive. But I almost feel like we've forgotten how good he once was. So I wish Keith all the luck, because everyone says I'm harsh with Keith Thurman. I wish him all the luck. Keith, if you're watching this show, which I'm sure you are, I wish you all the luck against Brock Jarvis. And he's probably sleeping. Yeah. And I hope that you get the job done. You fight Tim Tszyu, and there's one last hurrah, because you did entertain me many moons ago when you were fighting. Obviously, you don't really fight anymore. But
what do you mean don't really fight anymore? He's gonna be fighting in 12 hours from now. What are you talking about? I went through a whole camp.
He's the best self-employed. He's not even part-time. What's below part-time? What's below a part-time worker?
Partial time? I don't know. I think that's kind of the same.
One fight in 5.5 years.
I like how he's focusing on Australia. Get by Jarvis, then focus on Tim Tszyu. Do that fight in Australia.
He'll get past Jarvis as well. I think.
I mean,
I hope.
What's he been out? 3-4 years?
Yeah, the Barrios fight was 22.
Yeah, so 3 years.
22. It's crazy.
So we'll see.
All right, sorry. Let me not interrupt you.
Go ahead. I was very excited. Parting shot presented by no one, but I am so excited about this one because as you know, Ade, I was building her up. And boy, did she deliver. Let's go back to Toronto Friday night. Most valuable promotions. There's my girl, Tamara Thibault, with the first round TKO, the Canadian Olympian who was supposed to win gold last summer. But she didn't get by the first round, but it was okay. Because look at her now, 2-0, and on her way to that big July 11th card at Madison Square Garden.
I should know this. I'm embarrassed to ask this question, but I don't care. What weight is she?
She's a big gal. She's a big gal. I'll tell you. 160. I was going to say 168. It was 160 pounds.
Okay, 160. Oh, okay. That's an interesting addition.
Yeah.
That's an interesting addition.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
What you're thinking. I remember I've been saying, like, where's all the girls at the Olympics that are in Clarissa's weight class? Like, who's Clarissa going to fight? And obviously, not yet, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
There you go. What do you think? Impressed?
Yeah, I mean, she looks razor sharp, doesn't she? But I mean, who is she fighting?
Yeah, no.
Who's she fighting?
Big opportunity coming up. It sounds like they want her on that July 11th card, which is going to be all-female card. And we haven't heard some of the other names, but they're teasing some big names being attached to this one. That's the one at Madison Square Garden on Netflix, headlined by Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 3. So looking forward to that very much, and looking forward to the action this weekend, that card in Orlando. I'm looking forward to Amari Jones, speaking of Olympians, he had a bit of a better showing than Tamara Thibault this past summer in Paris. So a lot to like, a lot to look forward to. Not only this weekend, but next weekend as well. March 22nd is going to be a big night with the Australian card, and then the return of the great Sebastian Fundaro, who I think is 7'6".
Dude, okay, enough of that. Are you coming to the Misfits card? March 29th?
March 29th, we had old Dylan in studio yesterday.
Yeah, I saw.
No, it was, I guess it was one and done for me. Are you going to that one? Are you working that one?
Well, I've been asked, and I'm like, I'll do it if Ariel's doing
Oh, no,
it.
please don't say that. Please don't say that.
Oh, no, that's kind of the line. That's my line. I'm sorry. That's kind of what I've said.
Please don't say that. Please don't say that.
Well, obviously, I'm not doing it then. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the big Darren Till,
taking
Darren
money
Stewart
out of my
fight.
kids, my future kids, because of you not doing it. Okay.
Are you looking forward to the Darren Till, Darren Stewart fight, the battle of the Darrens?
I actually am, because Darren Stewart, we know is quite aggressive.
The dentist.
And, yeah, exactly. So I think that's the most intriguing fight on the card. I still don't know how serious to take Dylan Dennis, if I'm honest with you. I don't know.
Did you see when we did the face-to-face and he tried to get me?
Yeah. And you didn't flinch. I was like, well done, Ariel.
Mamba mentality, baby.
Dude, I like the bit where you were trying to talk about Gordon Ryan in a little
and then he
grappling session, and he started speaking about your background.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's he doing?
Classic.
Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. And you know what? I actually fell for it because then I forgot to circle back to it. So I guess it worked in the end.
Smart. He's
it
so
worked.
smart.
What a guy. Yes, that's March 29th. So a lot to like. But for now, it is time to go. My friend ADE, did your Liverpool squad win?
It's extra time, 1-1.
Wow. You get to watch.
It's going to penalties.
I
get to watch.
What's it like? What's it like rooting for a team that can't get by the likes of PSG? Because the team I support, we get by Man City with ease. So I'm just curious, what's it like?
No. Look, I ain't gonna lie. Your Forest team is incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
Normally I like tried to do snide comment, but no, your Forest team's incredible.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Much love, ADE. Thank you so much.
But this is Champions League football. Your team will know about
we'll be there
now.
next year.
Okay.
Don't worry. We'll be there next year. We'll see you there. For now, though, it is time to go. Thank you so much for watching, whether it's on YouTube or the DAZN app. We appreciate you all so very much. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We'll talk to you next week.